I have always wanted to change the world in order to make a little difference in a huge way. I know this may sound crazy, but I mean it. When I look out at all of your beautiful faces, I wonder, what are your names and what has made you who you are today? I continue to ask myself if there's any way that I can inspire you to be the best version of yourselves. When we recognize the positive influences in our lives and pass that gift on to someone else, we become the change. You may look at me and see an all-American girl, but from the beginning of my life, the cards were stacked against me. I was set up for failure. As a kid, I wondered if my life was normal. I thought getting left at school is not normal. I remember sitting outside on a bench, asking myself if I should walk home after dark, if I should stay where I was, and watching the janitor walk up to me and say, "Honey, are you going to be okay?" I reassured him, "Don't worry, my mom will come. She'll be here." I was in the 3rd grade. This is just a sample of many memories and stories of a childhood filled with heartache and disappointment. But one day, my life wasn't just bad, it exploded. This is the moment that everything as I knew it altered. I remember sitting on my curb of my Colorado neighborhood, bawling my eyes out. My mom had passed out on the driveway, and she was thought to be dead. They reassured me that she wasn't just on the way to the hospital, but that we were going to be taken away for a while, if not forever. All I could think was not again. This time, though, I realized was different. Different from the nights that she drove my brothers and I drunk in the car, and different from the nights that we missed the comfort of a goodnight hug and kiss. Different from the nights that she blared the music through our entire house while we were trying to go to sleep. This time, I realized I was no longer going to be able to stand up for my mom's mistakes, and this time, I realized it was time to stand up for myself. Here, I moved in with my grandparents, and we found ourselves, I was put in a foster care, actually, for 8 months. 8 months of constant arguments, fighting, and rule breaking. 8 months of thinking that I was no longer going to be able to have a mom and that she wasn't going to be able to resist a drink. Where was I supposed to go? My grandparents were in Nebraska, and my dad was in jail. I kept telling myself that he was going to come rescue me from my situation, that he was going to be at the doorstep, ready to pick me up and carry me to a home. Instead, my dad died at age 32 from a drug overdose on heroin and cocaine. As an 11-year-old, I felt completely hopeless. I thought that I was no longer going to be able to be loved again because the 2 people in my life who were supposed to demonstrate that to me didn't have the capacity. I realized that I could no longer carry on anyone else, but only stand up and be an example of how to get out. I found myself in Nebraska with my grandparents. Here, my life began to change for the better. My mom proved that she couldn't overcome her addiction or be a mom to us. This time, she left by choice and for good. In order to have a positive mindset, it was necessary for me to realize that my parents were clouded by addiction, that I had to forgive them and be grateful that they brought me into this world, because I would not be standing in front of all of you today if it weren't for them and this journey. It is also not my intention to make you feel bad for me, but only to give you insight on how my perspective has been made. What is my perspective, you ask? It's that, 1, you need to stand up and fight for yourself, and 2, that you need to let others stand up and fight with you. My grandparents were the first to make me feel significant, and they are the light of my life. They set rules for me and boundaries, which were the first I'd ever had, and they put their lives on hold in order to heal mine. They saw the shining star through the tarnish. They focused their attention on my capabilities and my worth. And most importantly, they taught me how to love myself and how to accept unconditional, pure love. And they've continued to do that. After living with them for 4 years in Nebraska, we moved to California. Here, my grandpa lost his job, and I was faced with a decision to make. Do I stay with them and live wherever they ended up, or come back to Nebraska? Aspiring to come to college someday, I chose to come back to Lincoln, to a city and community that I've always loved, to a city that fosters kindness at every corner. Looking back, this is where I grew exponentially. I moved in with my best friend, Hallie Dolson, of 7 years, and her family. Here, I was given another influential person in my life to show me that positivity is contagious. Michelle Dolson, Hallie's mom, was willing to put up with another teenage girl. And she showed me that singing at random hours of the day in random places is good for the heart. And she showed me that if we can't take life too seriously because it'll weigh down on us. She and her family took me in as if I was their own, and they showed me what a family is supposed to be like. When I was a freshman in high school, Mr. Smith, my English teacher, told me one of the most impactful things I've ever heard. He said, "There are 4 kinds of people in this world: perpetrators, victims, bystanders, and activists." He said, "Who are you going to decide to be?" I realized that I had been living my life as a victim of my circumstances. In this moment of realization, I changed, and he helped change me. He constantly takes time to an interest in what I'm doing. Whether it's my brother might be going to jail, I'm struggling to pay for something, I'm having an argument with a friend, my students aren't taking the advice I know they need, or I'm in the best mood ever. No matter the circumstance or my mood, he is always there, and he has shown me that there is something very valuable that you can give and have in the world, which is time. My last and most valued difference maker is God. He used to be someone that I prayed to late at night trying to escape the screaming, and now he is someone that I look to every day to guide my life. From each of my difference makers, I have learned to love myself, to live life lightheartedly, to value others' time and my own, to be an activist, and most importantly, that there is an overwhelming love waiting for you if you acknowledge it. Whether you consider your story to be better or worse than mine, I challenge you to assess that for yourself. I challenge you to acknowledge the difference makers in your own life, and I dare you to go out in the world and be the change in someone else's. When we recognize the change that people have fostered in us, we in turn can foster that for others and be the change. Be the reason that they're excited to come home, to school, to work, to the grocery store, anywhere. Value others as you expect to be valued. I am proud to stand before you all today as an example and testimony of someone who might not have had the opportunity to be the best version of herself, unless I had the individuals that changed my heart. So thank you.